According to Sci Now, there's only one ONEIRONAUT left on Earth, an unusual knot. She's an extreme lucid dreamer, a diaphanous phenom sailor, transparent as the underbelly of a glass frog. Those are words from the ONEIRONAUT 1, Sheri-D Wilson's epic poem that began as a 2-page presentation to precision oncologists. The Knot series is the latest from this Order of Canada appointed poet and marks her debut playing in the toy box of speculative fiction. Sheri-D Wilson joins me now. Good afternoon. I'm honored to have this opportunity to be able to talk with you.
Thank you very much for interviewing me.
This is an extremely intense and dense book. There's a lot to chew on here. It's mind-blowing, the various places that it took me through your magical poetry and just the fanciful flights of imagination. It was jaw-dropping. It must take quite some time to produce stuff like this.
Well, luckily we had COVID, and I blame it on COVID because I was able to spend too much time alone, and I guess that's what happens when I spend too much time alone.
So would you characterize this ONEIRONAUT series as dystopian in a way? Because dystopian is sort of the catchphrase of the 21st century. Is that the way you'd characterize it?
I think so. It is dystopian, or it has a dystopian element. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think there's 3 or 4 worlds functioning at once in the book. And so one of the worlds is the dystopia. And it's the first time I've written about the dystopic view ever. I had written the whole thing, and it was all about healing. It was about dream healing and life and death and philosophical points of view. And it at that time included the dream world that includes Asclepios. And then one night I don't know, I went to sleep and I woke up in the morning and I suddenly saw the dystopic world. I'd never seen it before. I didn't know how to write that evil character. I never wanted to write that evil character. And suddenly the evil world came, and I just sat down and I rewrote the whole thing, including that dystopic world, that the healing world, the healers, the people the willows who live on Sweven, or in that off-grid society of dreamers, had something to function against. And suddenly I understood what people were talking about. Mm-hmm. All my life it took me to find out, oh, I see. That's how you fight against the evil dystopic world.
So succinctly, can you describe what the ONEIRONAUT is about? How would you characterize it?
I call it speculative poetry because it has an element of the sci-fi, mm-hmm. and it may be within this world. So there's worlds within worlds. So how would I characterize it? I would characterize it as a trip. You kind of go on a journey and you may find out about healing and metaphysics and how I feel about politics, and these characters, you may journey with them in their illusions and in their delusions, and in the end you may discover more about the world as I see it, I suppose, and metaphysics, because there's a lot of metaphysics and philosophy in the book as well, and Celtic lore and magic as well.
There's a certain amount of optimism, I think, though. There's a kernel of optimism represented by the character of Rain, of course, and those folks who happen to live off-grid. What inspired you to explore this narrative, to take off on it, to begin with?
Well, it was actually precision oncologists called Poet, and they were having a conference. And so they wanted a poet because they're called Poet. That's their acronym. Mm-hmm. And so they called me and they said, hey, will you write a poem about precision oncology? And I was like, and will you write a poem about us? And I'm like, no, no, absolutely not. You're the smartest people on earth. I can't even wrap my head around who you are, let alone try to write about you. But I could write about something else that's dear to me, which is dream healing and the idea of dream healing and how that might intersect with precision oncology and how we might use our dreams as an alternative form of healing and medicine. And they were like, yeah, come do that. And so I wrote this 2-page poem and I went along and there they were. They were the fighter pilots of thinkers. They were like, I stood in front of them and I suddenly could feel their brains breathing. And I was like, oh my, I've never really been in front of a crowd this smart. They were from all over the world and they were all quite young. And they were so smart that their listening was bigger. I could sense their ears. And and they were all laughing at my kookiness at being able to hear them, their brains breathing. But then I read my piece, and quite a number of them came up and spoke to me after about the connections between the earth and the dream and the healing, and how we have left these things behind in our playbook of medicine. And so I was very inspired by the fact that they even liked it, because I was like, smart people like this. Oh my God, the brainiacs are on to this. And so I just went home that day, that night, and I wrote all night and then all day and then all night. I was somehow captured by this madness, and that was the beginning of it.
Wow. And just the element of power and intrigue and all the variables that come in. There's something Orwellian about it, obviously, but I thought pieces like the Hunger Games, for example, fought in sub-zero temperatures in Calgary, and the bookstores, only the weapons are words in this case. So it is a very affecting piece of work that does take you on a journey, or as you said, an amazing trip.
I appreciate it.
Well, I'm honored to have the opportunity to chat with you today and to delve into the Not series with you. And I think it's a book that not only people should read once, but they should read it 2 or 3 times, just because there's so much there to dive into, and it's so rich on so many levels. Sheri-D Wilson, thanks a lot. I do appreciate your making a little time for us today, and good luck successively in releasing the other 2 parts too to the series. We look forward to seeing them.
Well, thank you. I love CKUA, and it's always been part of my life.